Hello and welcome to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Maradiege, on a Monday, August 26th. The preseason now behind us, now entering a whole new week, less than 2 weeks to go until the start of the NFL regular season. And to start the week, we have a lot of big decisions being made already, and also some yet to be made that we will be discussing on today's show. One of the biggest ones to have been made already is already known that Ceedee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys have agreed to that contract extension, so we're going to talk about that. That news actually broke a few hours ago. Then, similarly, Deron Bland on the other side of the football for the Dallas Cowboys, he had to undergo surgery recently, and now he will be out for the next month and a half. How will that impact the Dallas Cowboys defense for the first part of the regular season? And also touching on the Steelers quarterback battle, a decision to come later this week by Mike Tomlin as he announced it after their last preseason game, and a couple more topics to go later on in the show. Make sure to stay tuned for those. But also, before I get started, it's always much better when you guys interact with this show. I am always curious to know what you guys are thinking, any of your opinions on any of the topics I say, or any of my comments that I make on those topics. So, to keep that going, to make this show as interactive as possible, there's an easy way to go about that now by using the super chat feature that we have available to you guys as of now. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking, hit the super chat button, and let's keep this show as exciting and interactive as possible. But there's also that alternative option if you do prefer that, the tip and donations link, gsmcspodcast.net. Still, you're able to use that, tip and donate there, and leave a comment or question there if you prefer that old method. But we couldn't do this show without your amazing support, and we are always so thankful that you guys are part of our community and support this channel as well. But with that being the case now, the biggest piece of news that we have to discuss right here to kick off the show, just breaking news earlier today around 2 o'clock Eastern Time, we finally got a breakthrough on the Dallas Cowboys and Ceedee Lamb situation. News broke around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon for the Dallas Cowboys agreeing with their all-pro wide receiver Ceedee Lamb to a contract, a 4-year contract, $136 million for the all-pro receiver Ceedee Lamb. One of the two last remaining deals for the Dallas Cowboys, at least, to finally get resolved here. And I don't like to say I told you so, but I've been saying for a couple weeks now, a couple days, that I'm feeling that it's going to be Ceedee. I predicted in the last segment I made about Brandon Ayuk, Jamar Chase, and Ceedee Lamb that Lamb was probably going to get the extension, and it was more and more starting to feel like the Cowboys, in regards to Dak Prescott, and just the matter of how Ceedee Lamb went about this, he's the one that held out, he's the one that hasn't said anything, he's the one that pretty much has made the Dallas Cowboys take every step necessary to get this done, and almost not doing anything put even more pressure than, say, Dak Prescott did, obviously showing up, commenting on the contract negotiations, and almost giving the same answer. But for the Cowboys, would you want to extend the guy that, isn't there, is threatening to possibly sit out of the regular season, or are you going to feel more of an urgent need to extend the guy that's being a good sport about it, always there, present, showing up for his team? Yeah, Dak might seem, in hindsight, as more of a team player, more team-oriented, not so selfish, if some people want to use that word to describe Ceedee Lamb, but, Ceedee Lamb's the one that got the extension, and that's ultimately what these players are after, and that's, ultimately the fairest way of going about this, for how much Ceedee Lamb put into this past season and how important he was actually for the Dallas Cowboys. It is very well deserved. It's much deserved for Ceedee Lamb to get this extension, and on that 4-year, $136 million deal, at $34 million as a salary per year for those 4 years, Ceedee Lamb now becomes the highest paid wide receiver, or the second highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, just $1 million below the $35 million to Justin Jefferson. Also, he's the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, and more details into this contract because it was very much record-setting, as you're going to see over the next few days. $100 million guaranteed also to Ceedee Lamb, is tied for the fourth most ever given to non-quarterbacks. The most guaranteed money given to a non-quarterback is still Nick Bosa at $122.5 million, then Justin Jefferson, then Joey Bosa, and then tied for fourth is Ceedee Lamb and Myles Garrett at $100 million each for their respective contracts. And also, lastly, the $38 million signing bonus that Ceedee Lamb will also get is the largest ever given to a wide receiver in NFL history. So a lot of landmarks reached with this deal. While he might not be the highest paid wide receiver, he's pretty much there. And 1A, 1B situation with him and Justin Jefferson. Last year, Ceedee Lamb was up there for the best wide receiver in the NFL with Tyreek Hill. And you could still argue Justin Jefferson, but he, missed a bunch of games. I think he only played in about 10 or 11. And, that hindered his ability last year if you're just going to go off of 2023. But you can't go wrong with either of them. Those two, Jamar Chase, who is still in line for a contract, Tyreek Hill, and all these guys, there's no surprise that the wide receiver market has just exploded, and this is just another wide receiver added to the list of probably almost 15 or something around that. I forgot to take count, but there's been a lot just this offseason. So many wide receivers have gotten extended, and now for those that have extended to $25 million per year, it probably seems like such a bargain now to get a guy like Nico Collins or Jalen Waddle or someone like that for that amount of price, because this is only going to go up. This is only going to go up because now you start thinking about Jamar Chase, right? And while he's still 2 years away from really pushing that deadline to, need to be extended, he's made it pretty evident that this year he would like to get a deal done before the start of the regular season. And now, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, because it seemed like they weren't so inclined to extend them this offseason for whatever reason, if they couldn't or they just simply didn't want to just this offseason, because in all honesty, they didn't have to, like Ceedee, like Brandon Ayuk. There's no reason for them to go up to Jamar Chase with anything else than $34 million per year. It just wouldn't make sense, and Jamar Chase, I doubt, would even entertain that possibility of earning less than $35 million per year, because rightly so, he should compare himself right up there with Ceedee Lamb, his former teammate Justin Jefferson. He probably believes that he should be earning at least what they're making, if not more. So you could look at it now, obviously, in hindsight, like the Bengals sort of screwed up here a little bit just by not, beating the Cowboys to the finish line and trying to jump them and paying a little bit less, because if Jamar Chase got a contract extension for $35 million, then maybe Ceedee Lamb takes a step back and says, well, hold up, I'm not going to take that now because I think I should be making more than Jamar because I had a better season than him last year. And then it gets extended on. So the Cowboys doing a very good thing, rarely this offseason, extending their wide receiver. I felt that this one was more necessary just because, again, of all those reasons I mentioned at the start of the segment. And now, this ultimately ends the holdout for Ceedee Lamb. I'm sure he'll return to practice either tomorrow or the day after that. And he is still set to play 2024 on his fifth-year option. He is due to make $17.9 million per year, or just this year for his fifth-year option. And then the extension, compensation starts to kick in 2025. But this new extension, signs Ceedee Lamb through the 2028 year. And just some of the accolades that come along with Ceedee Lamb. Just named to the Pro Bowl last year, 3-time Pro Bowler, 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Led the NFL in receptions last year with 135, and he tacked on over 1,700 yards and 12 touchdowns on top of that. Huge resource and a huge reason why the Cowboys were so successful last year. This is the guy that you needed to have out there, and at least for Dak in this situation, I believe that if you can't get an extension done with Dak now, it does complicate it a little bit. I won't completely rule it out. I think it's impossible now, but to have it done before the start of the regular season with, I think, now 13 days left to go until their first week 1 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. I just find it hard to believe that they're going to get both done in this limited amount of time, and especially if they don't get it done this week. Next week is pretty much a work week. Next week is the first week where we'll have football in that week, so they're going to be focused on practice and preparing for the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how much contract talks we're going to have in that time period, so this is one of the big dominoes to fall, of those three, Ceedee, Brandon, and Ja'Marr Chase, obviously. I already mentioned Ja'Marr Chase shouldn't look at anything less than $34 million. And Brandon Ayuk, same thing. I don't know what the price, how this would affect the price, if Brandon might want more now or if he'll stay around the same price or if the 49ers are willing to move on from their position. But same thing with him. This week should be key to finally get a resolution. I know I've been saying that probably for a couple weeks now, but like I mentioned, next week is a work week. Next week we're going to have two football games during the week on Friday and Thursday. So I don't know how much time there's really going to be and how much preparation Brandon Ayuk is going to have needed for that week 1 matchup against the New York Jets. So waiting all this time, putting it off closer and closer to the regular season, it makes it so much more important and significant for one of those dominoes to fall, and being the first one in Ceedee Lamb, it benefits the Dallas Cowboys a lot. Now he's certainly going to be there against the Cleveland Browns, and against that defense, they were certainly going to need him, and they were certainly going to miss him if he wasn't there, but now they don't have to worry about that. Congratulations to Ceedee Lamb for making a ton of money. He definitely deserved it after 2023, but that'll conclude that segment on Ceedee Lamb. We're not going to go too far off of the Dallas Cowboys because while that is good news, there was some bad news that happened last week in regard to their other side of the football with their star defensive back, DaRon Bland. He suffered a stress fracture and now is set to be on the shelf for about 6 to 8 weeks. So I'll give you guys all the details around that and what games he could miss and when we could potentially see him back for the start of the regular season. So don't go anywhere. A lot more to talk about on today's episode of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.